Welcome. Today we're taking a seriously fascinating journey. We are going to push right past those vague stereotypes you might associate with the wellness industry, and we're diving straight into the rigorous molecular science of practical integrated medicine. For a long time, the conversation around holistic health has felt a bit disjointed. It sometimes lacked the hard scientific backing we expect in modern healthcare, but that is rapidly changing. In this explainer, we're going to look at the hard biological evidence that proves how deeply interconnected our bodies actually are, and how modern medicine is evolving to treat the whole person, not just isolated symptoms.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, redefining practical integrated medicine. Second, the shared roots of chronic disease. Third, biology meets lifestyle interventions. Fourth, the three pillars of integration. And finally, number 5, continuous monitoring and proactive health.
So, let's kick things off with part 1, redefining practical integrated medicine. To really grasp this, we need to dismantle some common misconceptions and set the architectural blueprint for what true, practical integration actually looks like in a modern clinical setting. Integrated medicine is best understood as the coordinated delivery of patient-centered healthcare. Notice the absolutely crucial distinction here. Conventional medical diagnosis and treatment remain the core, the unquestioned core. We rely on it for accurate diagnosis, emergency care, and disease-specific management. Integrated medicine does not mean we just indiscriminately adopt every alternative therapy under the sun. No way. Instead, we only incorporate selected complementary interventions that have acceptable, rigorous evidence of safety and effectiveness. These interventions are selected strictly according to a hierarchy of evidence, biological plausibility, and careful risk-benefit assessments.
So the crucial point is that we are moving away from creating parallel healthcare systems. In the past, you might have had a conventional doctor on one side and maybe an alternative practitioner on the other. That created a siloed, fragmented, and frankly chaotic menu of options for the patient. It's overwhelming. Integrated medicine replaces that with a carefully engineered, single coordinated pathway. It puts your needs at the exact center, structurally integrating evidence-informed therapies directly alongside conventional treatments.
Moving right along to part 2, the shared roots of chronic disease.
Now, let's zoom into the micro level for a second to examine the fascinating molecular biology that justifies this entire approach. These are the shared biological pathways of chronic disease. We're talking systemic, low-grade inflammation, autonomic dysregulation, which is basically where your fight-or-flight response gets stuck in the on position, chronic activation of the HPA axis causing hormonal imbalance, oxidative stress, insulin resistance, immune dysregulation, and mitochondrial dysfunction, which literally impairs your cell's energy. The big revelation here is that chronic diseases aren't just isolated organ failures. They actually stem from these deep interconnected biological roots.
And modern biomedical science increasingly recognizes that these persistent pathophysiological mechanisms don't just cause one specific issue. They contribute simultaneously to numerous diseases. Whether we're talking about diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neurodegeneration, or even depression, they all share these same biological drivers underneath the surface. Because these pathways are shared, targeting them holistically isn't just a nice idea, it is scientifically essential. The justification for integration isn't just philosophical anymore. It is supported by molecular physiology. You can't just treat the branch, right? You have to treat the root.
Which brings us perfectly to part 3, biology meets lifestyle interventions.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how exactly evidence-based complementary therapies specifically target those shared biological mechanisms we just identified. Take yoga, for example. It demonstrably shifts your autonomic balance. By increasing vagal tone and stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, yoga measurably regulates cortisol secretion and reduces inflammatory biomarkers like interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein. So it's not just about stretching or relaxing, it is a profound, measurable, biological intervention that dials down the chronic sympathetic overactivation that drives so much disease.
And the exact same rigorous science applies to what we eat. We really need to start looking at nutrition as a form of biological communication. Food is not merely a source of calories to be burned for energy. It provides actual molecular signals that influence your metabolism, your immunity, and get this, even the transcriptional regulation of your genes. A Mediterranean dietary pattern, or a diet rich in plant-based polyphenols, acts as continuous epigenetic communication that actively suppresses inflammatory gene expression. That's a real game-changing.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we clinically apply this science. we map specific chronic diseases to evidence-informed complementary interventions. For instance, using selected botanical medicines like curcumin and boswellia as an adjunct for inflammatory conditions. Why? Because they have demonstrated specific anti-inflammatory actions through the modulation of NF-κ signaling and other inflammatory mediators. It is not guesswork. It's the evidence-informed integration of traditional botanical systems with modern scientific scrutiny directly targeting the cellular pathways responsible for disease progression.
Let's step back out for part 4, the 3 pillars of integration.
Zooming back out to the macro application, we have to ask, how does a healthcare team actually put this into practice safely? Well, practical integration involves 3 simultaneous, mandatory processes. Step 1 is always an accurate conventional medical diagnosis. We never skip the foundational science of modern medicine. Step 2 is the evidence-informed selection of complementary interventions, carefully checking for biological plausibility and drug interactions. And Step 3 is continuous, multidisciplinary monitoring. Patient safety and scientific rigor represent the absolute highest priorities here. We are objectively tracking outcomes to ensure the combined therapies are actually working safely together.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a complete, continuous clinical cycle. It seamlessly links the onset and diagnosis, handled by conventional Western medicine, right through acute treatment, and then weaves in supportive care and mind-body restoration. Actually, scratch that, it's more like a continuous loop of healing. It respects traditional wisdom while advancing science, ensuring the patient isn't just stabilized, but actually restored to optimal function and maintained there for the long haul.
And finally, part 5, continuous monitoring and proactive health.
So how do we ensure this coordinated pathway is actually keeping you healthy? By establishing a comprehensive, personalized health baseline. Now, this isn't just checking your weight once a year. We're talking about tracking objective cardiometabolic markers like your HbA1c and resting heart rate, evaluating your respiratory and physical function, and measuring subjective, psychological, and well-being indicators. Establishing these baseline markers allows healthcare teams to realistically set goals, evaluate your progress over time, and know exactly what normal looks like for you.
And here is where it gets incredibly futuristic. Artificial intelligence now integrates directly with wearable devices to track your real-time physiological data constantly. By tracking subtle shifts in your resting heart rate, sleep quality, and physical activity, AI models can synthesize these complex data streams and spot negative deviations from your baseline. This allows your integrated healthcare team to initiate proactive lifestyle interventions long before a severe clinical disease formally develops. We are quite literally moving from reactive sickness care to proactive health recovery.
Which leaves us with this final, vital thought. We've seen the molecular science. We know that everything from your stress levels to your diet is actively speaking to your genes, modulating inflammation, and shaping your long-term health. So, if your daily habits are a form of continuous biological communication, what instructions are you sending your cells today? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to take charge of your own coordinated health pathway.